welcome you back to Fullerton College as we get set for Game 2 between Fullerton and Saddleback. I am Ryan Osborne, joined by Joseph Pavlenko over to my right-hand side. So we get set for Game 2. First game went to the Fullerton College Hornets by way of a 5-0 score. And the first pitch from Madison Peavyhouse is in there for a called strike. It'll be Thieber joined by Francisco and Varela. E-step with Benjamin and Schmidt, followed by Maddox, Woods, and Sickles. So here's Thieber at the plate, left-handed hitter, top of the box, and she'll take a look at the next one, and Peavyhouse leaves that low and away for 1 ball and 1 strike. Make that 2 balls and 1 strike, as that is left up and high. So 2-1 as Peavyhouse takes the circle for game number 2. Muro in center field watching on, taking a step towards the left field corner, and that's going to be a second strike. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Peavyhouse in the circle, Natera behind home plate. Lucero checks in over at first now, with Gonzalez at second, D. Ramirez and Dufresne at short and third, as this will be a 3 ball and 2 strike count. Out in left field is Miranda Rooney, center field is Emily Muro, and in right is Madison Ferguson. Outside for Peavyhouse, so she walks the first batter. And that's going to bring up Francisco with a runner over at first. First couple of batters in this ball game. Game number 2 between Fullerton and Saddleback. First pitch, fouled off to the left, and it gets out of play. That next pitch offered at, but not catching it is Francisco. She tried to bunt for it, and it's now no balls and 2 strikes. Francisco towards the top of the order, top 3 in batting average for this team. Now she takes a couple steps towards the circle. Peavyhouse delivers, and Francisco fouls it straight back. Delivery home, up and outside. Here's the toss down to second by Natera. Is the tag there in time? It is indeed. Alondra Natera is able to toss it down to second base, and it is there for the tag. So now with a 1 ball and 2 strike count, that brings up Francisco again with the bases empty. Up into the air over towards the right side. Trying to get to it and making the catch is Ferguson. That ball gets trapped in her glove. I don't even think she expected it to end up staying, but nonetheless, she gets the out, and there's 2 gone. So now that's going to bring up Varela. Rachel Varela, the starting shortstop for Saddleback, will take a called strike 0-1. Up into the air, left-hand side. Dee Ramirez trying to find it, calling everyone off is Muro, and she's going to end the top half of the first. So as we get set for the middle half of the frame, Fullerton, Saddleback, no score here in game 2. You are watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net. And once again, we thank you for joining us all season long here on SportsNetUSA.net. Myself, Ryan Osborne, Joseph Pavlenko, Mark Pavlovich, Corey Nalen, Rashawn Haylock, the franchise, making an appearance, and Ed Ford as well. Able to bring you the action live from Fullerton College, not just softball, but also baseball as well. And speaking of baseball, don't forget that coming up on Friday, we're going to have a doubleheader at the baseball field here at Fullerton College, as Fullerton College baseball has one more opportunity here in the regular season to get a home victory again. We saw them get their first home victory of the season last week, and what a thrill it was for those players to be able to run onto the field and get it in walk-off fashion as well. Come from behind walk-off fashion in the bottom half of the 9th inning. So as we get set for game number 2 and the bottom half of the first, as Saddleback is going to be sending out Benjamin into the circle once again. Behind home plate is Marilyn Francisco. Over at first is Katie Schmidt. And at second is Brenna Sickles. Covering third is Emma Estep. And at short is Rachel Varela. The outfield from left to right is Ashanti Woods, joined by Ann Thiebert. In addition to Michaela Maddox. So that's the 9 on the field for Saddleback. So here's Ferguson. She's going to be the one to lead things off. Ferguson with Natalie Gonzalez behind her, and then Dee Ramirez hitting in the 3 spot in the order. No balls and 1 strike. And encouraged from the crowd is Ferguson. And she lifts this one over towards center field. That is going to stay in the air, and Thiebert is able to make the catch. Over towards left, right to Woods, and she's able to make the catch. So on 1 pitch, Natalie Gonzalez ends up flying out to left, and that brings up Dee Ramirez.
Number 1, Dee Ramirez.
Ramirez takes the first pitch up at eye level. Right-handed hitting Ramirez sends this one high into the air over towards left. It is Woods who's looking for it, facing the wind, and she is able to make the catch. So 3 pitches was all it took to get 2 outs between Gonzalez and Ramirez. And that'll take us to the top half of the second between Fullerton and Saddleback. You are watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net. And we, again, thank you for joining us here on SportsNetUSA.net all season long. as we've been able to give you Fullerton College baseball and softball live and on the air here. When you look at both of these two teams, you see how they compare against each other. Fullerton this year, 131 wins if you include this last game that they just played. Saddleback with 64 in total. So Fullerton more than double the runs that Saddleback has. The Hornets with 187 hits compared to 119 for Saddleback. And the Hornets driving in 102 runs compared to 54 for Saddleback. When you look at the pitching staffs, Fullerton with a team ERA of 2.66 and Saddleback at a 5.41. When you look at their strikeouts per game, however, for the most part, Fullerton and Saddleback have been pretty equal at 5.66 to 5.4. But one big thing for Saddleback is they no longer have the assistance of Veronica Baeza, as she ended up getting hurt last week, and she is done for the season. One ball and one strike as the first pitch that was delivered in this at-bat to Estep ended up being a called strike, and then the second one bounces in for one ball and one strike. So here's Estep, and she gets another strike called to her. One ball and two strikes this time. Estep this season hitting .290 as a freshman with 3 strikeouts. Also has a couple of extra base hits and has driven in 9. Or make it 7, excuse me. 2 balls and 2 strikes. 31 at-bats for her. The on-base percentage, though, is actually really high. She leads the team, or is second on the team with a .436, right behind Rachel Varela's .509. 3 balls and 2 strikes as PV House is trying to work here in the top half of the second inning. To home. That's going to be low. So PV House with their second walk of the game, and Estep is going to go over to first as that brings up Benjamin. First pitch to Benjamin is going to catch the outside corner. No balls and 1 strike. Benjamin this season also getting time in the circle, as you saw earlier. Started the first game and started this game as well. Hitting .233 this year. Left-handed hitter. Shows bunt, is going to drag it out the first base line. It goes right to Lucero, and she will bring it right to the bag and get the out. So the sacrifice works as Benjamin with a drag bunt of the up the first base side. And you've got 1 out on the board, and Katie Schmidt up next. Schmidt, first pitch, right in there. And she watches all the way. Hitting .167 with 7 strikeouts and 5 RBIs. She's got a chance here with a runner in scoring position to drive in a run. No balls and 1 strike. Delivery home. That's going to stay up and high, and Schmidt will scoot away from it. Again, Fullerton in the field with PV House in the circle. Natera behind home plate. Lucero at first with Ferguson, or make it Gonzalez at second. Ramirez at short with Dufresne at third. Outfield of Rooney, Muro, and Ferguson from left to right, as that next pitch is fouled off. Ball in the dirt, gets away, and that's going to allow Eastep to go over to third. So Schmidt now with an excellent opportunity here to drive in a run and get the first lead for Saddleback. Two balls and 2 strikes, line down the first base side and foul. Up into the air, right side of the infield. Lucero underneath it, calling for it, makes the catch. So 2 outs, and that brings up Maddox. So PV House working with the runner over at third. She will take a called strike against Maddox. Up and high, 1-1. They appeal down to third, no swing from our second base umpire. 1 ball, 1 strike, and 2 gone. Next delivery home, swinging and missing is Maddox, and it's 1-2. She went after a high fastball on that last one. It was interesting because her back foot comes up and kind of strides more towards home plate to just give her a little bit extra reach towards it. Didn't catch it. Next delivery up into the air near Lucero. At the wall, she's able to make the catch. So Saddleback gets a runner on via walk. They sacrifice him over. And then Eastep eventually is stranded over at third. And that will bring up the Fullerton College Hornets coming up in just a little bit. You are watching Fullerton College Hornet softball here on SportsNetUSA.net. Ryan Osborne, Joseph Pavlenko here joining you live from Fullerton College as the Hornets are trying to sweep both halves of this doubleheader here on a day where they honor the sophomores at Fullerton College. Looking at Saddleback over to our left, a much smaller roster than Fullerton College has at their disposal here at this ball game. Just about 10 or 11 players here for Saddleback. On the other side, the full roster for the gold-clad Fullerton College Hornets. As we get set to, again, set the lineups defensively for the Saddleback Gaucho, or excuse me, not the Saddleback Gauchos, but the Saddleback Bobcats, as they have newly been christened. Annalie Benjamin is in the circle with Marilyn Francisco behind home plate. Katie Schmidt at first with Brenna Sickles at second. Left side of the infield is Rachel Varela and Emma Eastep. Out in left, it's Ashanti Woods and Thiebert in center, and Michaela Maddox is in right. Ball up into the air as it gets fouled back. Miranda Rooney coming up next. 0-1. One ball and one strike to Rooney. After her, it'd be Casey Dufresne for the Hornets. Rooney, lefty, shows bunt, puts it down, and it will end up getting fouled back. Rooney in her first at-bat in the first game ended up getting around one and sent it into the corner and right for a triple. To the left, it gets fouled back. One ball and two strikes. Rooney from the lefty swings and misses, and she is retired via the K. No balls, one strike to Dufresne. Dufresne in the first game had a couple of balls that ended up getting batted out towards left field that off the bat, both Mark and I thought there's no way that this stays in the yard. Both of them kind of hung up just before they got to the warning track. To home, swinging and missing is Dufresne, and she is struck out. Beautiful pitch there by Benjamin as she ends up going with that almost Ephus type breaking ball, and Dufresne well out in front of it. And she swings through it, and that brings up PV House. And PV House smacks this one over to center, and Thiebert is there. She put a charge into it, but she is going to line out to center field. That takes us to the top half of the third. Fullerton, Saddleback, scoreless. You are watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net. Welcome back. Fullerton College softball live on the air here on SportsNetUSA.net, and you can see it there, the defensive order for Fullerton College as they are taking their warm-up tosses here at the softball field at Fullerton College. PV House is in the circle, Alondra Natera behind home plate. Over at first is Lucero, and at second is Gonzalez. Shortstop and third being patrolled by D. Ramirez and Casey Dufresne. Outfield from left to right is Miranda Rooney, Emily Muro, and Madison Ferguson. So Ashanti Woods is going to be the first one due up for Saddleback. It'll be Ashanti Woods, joined by Brenna Sickles, and then Thiebert in the top of the order. One ball and no strikes as PV House delivers the first pitch well outside. Woods very crouched at the plate, kind of crowding home plate. And PV House leaves that up and high. And it's 2-0. Two balls and no strikes. Delivery home. There's a called strike. Where PV House has had a lot of success is to that outside half. If she's able to place her fastball to the outside corner, it sets up her inside changeup that we've seen so far this year. Looped over towards right. It is going to land in the glove of Ferguson. So that'll bring up Sickles, the final person in the order who is yet to come up to the plate. Right back to PV House, and she's able to make the catch. So two are gone, and now that is going to bring up Thiebert for the second time today. So for Thiebert, she takes a look at the first one, one ball and no strikes. Second one on its way, in on the hands, and she's able to foul it off towards the right-hand side. As you see there on your screen, you see those canopies shielding all the folks in attendance, family and friends of those who are here to honor the sophomores. So here's PV House on a 1-1. Little check swing from Thiebert, and she ends up getting a piece of it. Goes foul. So here's Thiebert's next opportunity. Bounces it up the first base side and foul. One ball, two strikes, two away. PV House trying to get Fullerton College into the bottom half of the third inning. Thiebert out in front of it again, and she will send it off to the right. One thing about PV House is that she's not a big strikeout pitcher, only 4 strikeouts this season. Out in front again is Thiebert, and it goes right to Lucero. Little dribbler, and she's able to walk it to the bag herself. No runs, no hits, no errors, and no one left on base as Fullerton College goes to the dugout to get ready to come up to the plate in the bottom half of the third. You are watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net. Ryan Osborne and Joseph Pavlenko. Don't forget that coming up this weekend, we're going to have the coaches show with our softball coaches coming up. So check YouTube, go to the KBPK YouTube page, and you can watch that. Interviews with Coach Speedy and then also Coach Crystal as well, and got more stuff on its way. So watch the Coaches Show with myself, Joseph Pavlenko, Mark Pavlovich, Corey Nayland, all making an appearance on the Coaches Show, and you'll be able to see a lot more content and some old Coaches Shows that are on the webpage as well. So again, go to YouTube, search KBPK, and you can watch the Coaches Show all online. Taylor McCall is going to be the first one due up for Fullerton College. As Benjamin finishes up her warm-up tosses. So Benjamin finishes McCall over at first, or down the first base line. She has started to enter her way more into the lineup as the season has progressed. And Fullerton has been the benefactor of that as she continues to get into a rhythm, get good at bats, as we saw earlier today, a 2 RBI single, which allowed for the Hornets to take a lead. So the left-handed hitting Taylor McCall to the plate. She'll be joined by Lucero directly behind her. One ball and no strikes. Takes outside the strike zone, goes back in, and this is too far inside and low. Benjamin, in her last inning of work, ended up striking out a couple of Fullerton Hornets. One being Rooney, the other being Dufresne. Two balls and one strike. Another strike to McCall. 2-2. Benjamin in a lefty-on-lefty matchup. Goes into the line, brings it home, off speed, sent into right field. However, there's a chance to throw her out, and it ends up going high and away. Out in right field, Maddox had a chance to throw out McCall over at first, but her throw goes high and wide. And that will bring up Lucero, and McCall surely is going to be run for as the Hornets take a look into the dugout. And it looks like Jaylena Perez is going to enter. Showing bunts is Lucero. She brings it back, one ball and no strikes. Bunted up the first base side. It's Lucero looking for a chance to get to first in time. She doesn't, but Jaylena Perez will get up to second. And Muro comes up next. Muro is going to take a called strike on the first pitch. No balls and one strike with one away. Runner at second is Perez, as she's running for Taylor McCall. No balls, 2 strikes, 1 away. Here's Benjamin, leaning to her right, delivers home, and there's another strikeout. She's got 3 in her last 5 batters she's faced. Ferguson, first pitch that she sees is off speed. She's able to foul it off and send it over towards the left. Ferguson has a couple of hits today, trying to get back on board, and she has also scored a run. Ferguson getting jammed in on the hands, and she lines it foul towards the left-hand side again. No balls, 2 strikes, and 2 away. Oh, and 2. Up into the air, left-hand side. It's going to go into the glove of Varela, and she makes the catch. So that takes us to the top half of the fourth. Still no score between Fullerton and Saddleback. You are watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net. Fullerton taking the field again as we reset their defensive lineup. Coming up here in just a moment with PV House in the circle for the Hornets, a 4.77 ERA, 4 strikeouts this year, and she's got a couple of saves as well. Londra Natera behind home plate with Lucero over at first. Natalie Gonzalez still at second for the Hornets, and Dee Ramirez at short with Casey Dufresne at third. That's the infield for Fullerton College. Outfield from left to right is Rooney, joined by Muro and Ferguson. Those are the 9 for the Hornets as they get set to take the field. They're going to face Francisco to start. Francisco's last time up ended up grounding out. So here's PV House to Francisco. Leaves that first one in at the ankles. The thing with PV House is that she has a tendency to move all around in the strike zone. It's a matter of whether or not she's able to locate her pitches. Lots of movement, as this will end up getting topped over to short, and it will go to Dee Ramirez. So here's Varela up next. E-step right behind her. One ball, no strikes. When you look at Varela hitting .462 in 52 at-bats entering today, make it 53 earlier. An on-base percentage of .509. She has been sensational at the top half of the order for Saddleback. It's a matter of whether or not they can get the order to her. 7 runs batted in. She's got 7 doubles as well. So she can swing a very hot bat for Saddleback. Just needs some runners in scoring position for her. 1 ball, 2 strikes as she fouls that last one away. Over to first, it'll go to Gonzalez, and Lucero is the one who ends up getting it. So here's Easton. As a final from Cypress just ends up wrapping up. Cypress 21, Golden West 0. So Cypress with a decisive victory there. No balls and 1 strike here to Easta. 2 gone, up and high. One ball and 1 strike, delivery home. High floater over to Dufresne, who throws it to first, and Lucero with the pick. So that's going to do it for the top half of the 4th as we go to the bottom half. 3.5 played halfway through this ball game. Fullerton and Saddleback still scoreless. You're watching Fullerton College Softball here on SportsNetUSA.net. So Benjamin finishes up her warm-up tosses as Fullerton College is going to set up Natalie Gonzalez with the first at-bat here of the bottom half of the 4th inning. And she'll be joined by Dee Ramirez right after her. So Gonzalez is going to step in for Fullerton. The wind here in Fullerton blowing from the right center field fence over towards first base. So not quite home plate, but still diagonally across the field. Showing bunt, bringing it back is Gonzalez, and she'll get that as a called strike. One ball, 1 strike. Home. And swinging and missing is Gonzalez. And it's 1-2. One thing about Benjamin, when she ends up throwing to home, you'll see that her left arm insanely quick as it ends up going through her motion. Gonzalez with a single into right field. there's almost like a little hesitation. It's something that Mark mentioned earlier as well. He mentioned it as a hitch in the delivery. It's more of a hesitation than anything. And that brings up D. Ramirez. Bunted in front of home plate. D. Ramirez is able to get the runner over to second as Gonzalez will be there now. And there's an out on the board. Time is called over on the left side of the infield, as it looks like Coach Crystal is making sure that Gonzalez had the right cards over at second, so that way if they end up putting a play on, well, she has the correct communication. Up and out. Up into the middle of the infield, it will go into center. Thiebert is going to toss this over to home. It gets there with plenty of time to spare. They send it to second, and Rooney is there safely. So she takes advantage of the throw home, and that will bring up Casey Dufresne with an excellent chance to drive in a couple. One ball and no strikes as Casey Dufresne takes outside the strike zone on the first pitch. After her, it would be PB House. Should the inning continue, as that will be laid off by Dufresne. Two balls and no strikes to home. Dufresne right over to second. This will be tossed to home. Here's the throw, not in time. And PV House is coming up next. So PV House with a great chance to be able to extend the lead that she is currently going to be pitching behind. And Coach Cristo is going to go to home plate to make a change. Time is called for a moment, as the coaching staff for Saddleback wants a quick word in the circle. Doesn't look like Saddleback was very happy with the throw to home. Nonetheless, Fullerton College currently with a 1-0 lead here in the bottom half of the fourth. Off the end of the bat, this is going to go over to second. Toss to first as they are in time. The out is recorded, but it's now 2-0 Fullerton. Corey Nalen, who is at home watching the game, says that the Saddleback Bobcat uniforms are pretty nice. Have those racing stripes on the side. As Taylor McCall will re-enter here. McCall, first pitch. She ends up flying this one directly back behind home plate. Over towards the left side, into the glove. It will fly of E-Step, and she's able to make the catch. And it looks like Coach Speedy is going to end up making a change here coming up in just a moment. One thing for Fullerton College is they are trying to keep pace with Santa Ana, as yes, the Hornets end up controlling their own destiny when it comes to the rest of this season. But Santa Ana, with a big win earlier today, was sitting just behind Fullerton, about a game back actually. So if you're the Fullerton Hornets, you're looking to sweep both halves of this doubleheader. Not just convincingly, but you have to give yourself an opportunity to stay out in front. And that might be kind of represented for the Hornets by Jessica Lopez coming in to pitch for Fullerton. After PV House goes the first 4 innings tossed. And then here in the top half of the 5th, Jessica Lopez has a chance to throw. So Jessica Lopez now takes over in the circle for Fullerton. As we mentioned earlier, about a 2.15 ERA, 100 strikeouts in total on the dot. In addition to striking out about 5 to 6 per game. So that means that PV House is going to go out of the circle and check in over at first. Benjamin is the first one to face Lopez here in game 2. Lopez goes into the line and Benjamin swings and misses. Put a big swing on it, just wasn't able to catch up in time. To home, that's outside again. Wind picking up here. Now switching over from left center field to first. Out towards left. This ball is in the air, and Muro, making up a lot of ground in center field, is able to go out there and make the catch. And so Katie Schmidt comes up next. Casey Dufresne over at third. D. Ramirez at short with Gonzalez at second. And PV House over at first. As Schmidt just behind it a shade, and she is able to foul it off. 0-1 to home. There's a called strike. 0-2. So Lopez immediately goes to that very, very, very slow breaking ball, and she's able to find it for a called strike. So here's Schmidt back in there. Right-handed batting Schmidt, delivery home, and she is able to get a piece of it. Oh, and 2 the count. Lopez to home, just outside. Trying to keep it close was Natera, but she doesn't end up getting a call. One and 2. Inside half strike 3 call. 101 strikeouts for Jessica Lopez this season. And the Columbus State commit is able to get another strikeout. That's one thing for Lopez, is that she has continually shown how well she's able to strike out batters. You look at a couple years ago in her freshman campaign for Fullerton, had over 200 strikeouts to her credit. 2 outs on the board, and she goes with that Ephus type pitch to the outside corner. So Taylor McCall is wrapped up by it, and it's no balls, 1 strike, and 2 away. Back to home, swinging and missing to make it 0-2. Will be Maddox. Ferguson, couple steps in from the ivy in the outfield. Next one up and high, 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 gone, 2 across in the bottom half of the 4th inning for Fullerton College. It gave them a 4-0 lead. Swinging and missing again is Maddox, and that will send Lopez to the dugout. No runs across for Saddleback. That's going to bring up the Fullerton Hornets with a chance to add to their lead. You are watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net. So Clarissa Hernandez is the Hornet that was announced initially. Instead, it's going to be Jessica Lopez who comes into bat. So Jessica Lopez gets to step up once more. As we mentioned earlier, she just got the opportunity to take over in the circle for Fullerton College, as she has been the ace the entire way for these Hornets. First pitch to Jessica Lopez is 1 ball and no strikes. Next up, and she sends us on over to second. It's going to scoot away. So it gets away from Sickles over at second base, and that's going to bring up Clarissa Hernandez. Bunted, first base side. Hernandez into foul territory. No balls and 1 strike. Saddleback team that is currently number 6 in the Orange Empire Conference. Trying to steal a victory here from the number 1 Fullerton College Hornets. First game went to the Hornets by a 5-0 score. This is bunted directly in front of home plate. Toss to first is there in time. Sickles over for the cover. And Jessica Lopez is going to slide in safely to second base.
Number 44, Madison Ferguson.
And again, as we mentioned earlier, Cypress 21-0. They were able to beat Golden West College. One ball and no strikes. Lopez over at second. Time is called for a moment. One and 0. Making 1-1 as Ferguson watches that one go on the inside half. One ball, 1 strike, 1 away. Woods out in left field. He is about 4 or 5 steps shallow and shaded towards the left field line. Ferguson looks to bunt it forward and ends up sending it backwards. Goes back behind home plate. One ball, 2 strikes, and 1 away. Runner over at second. Ferguson trying to drive her in as she has her in scoring position. Delivery home. Circle change right back to Benjamin. She leaps up, makes the catch. Toss to first is there. It's a little bit high, but Schmidt is able to reach up and make the catch. So that moves up Lopez down to third, and it brings up Natalie Gonzalez. So Natalie Gonzalez, the lefty who has gotten on once, she's 1 for 2. Her first at-bat, she ends up only needing 1 pitch before she flies out. 1 ball and no strikes. And then in at-bat number 2, saw 3 pitches and got a single into right. To home. Bunted third base side. Lopez, no play at first. And taking off towards second easily and getting there will be Gonzalez. Gonzalez got to the first base line and to the first base bag and realized, hey, no one else is covering second. Looks like some free real estate I can take. And she ends up moving up to second base. So now you have runners on second and third, and Dee Ramirez with a beautiful chance to drive them both in. And she takes the first pitch for a called strike, making it 2-0. To home, up and high. Benjamin to Ramirez, up into the air, left-hand side of the infield. It is going to go in the glove of Estep. And the Hornets, again, runners in scoring position, but they aren't able to drive them in. You're watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net, and a big reminder that coming up on Friday, Fullerton College baseball is going to be back here on the air live on 90.1 KBPK and SportsNetUSA.net as we wrap up the regular season between between baseball and softball. Was thinking about the coaches show a few moments ago and how football has started contact-wise as well. Not to mention we saw the water polo teams who were practicing, in addition to soccer getting some opportunities, and then also beach volleyball, as we've seen, with an Orange Empire Conference Championship. But for now, it is Fullerton College baseball and softball who have been live and on the air this season on SportsNetUSA.net. You can see the out-of-town scoreboard. It all basically consists of Cypress and Golden West with a 21-0 win. A no-hitter was tossed by Cypress College over Golden West, 21-0. 21 runs, 22 hits, no errors. On the other side for Golden West, no runs, no hits, and 5 errors. Santa Ana this year, not having themselves too bad of a season. And in the bottom half of the 5th inning against Orange Coast, they're up 3 by a 5-2 score.
Now batting for Saddleback is number 14, Ashanti Wood.
So Shanti Woods, first one due up. She faces Jessica Lopez once again, and this time she will swing through that one. No balls and 2 strikes as Lopez gets the called one. Lopez moving in and out of the zone in both of her appearances today. Again, she started and completed game number 1, and we are in game 2 as she gets a foul back. Oh, and 2 count. Infield with PV House, Gonzalez, Ramirez, and Dufresne all watching on as that gets fouled back. Natera wanted a quick second to talk to Jessica Lopez. As Lopez and that last one get fouled off. Ends up getting a new softball. Up into the air. It is going to land for a single. So here's Sickles. Nice chance here for Sickles to come up to the dish and kind of wash away that last air that she had. Sickles showing bunt. Places it, puts it up into the air. To home. Bunted up into the air. Looking for it is Natera. It's going to go off the chain link fence and back. Lopez makes it 1 ball and 2 strikes. Woods not really taking much of a hop off the first base bag once the pitch is thrown. 1 ball and 2 strikes as Lopez takes a long look at the batter and Sickles, swings and misses, and there's a strikeout for Lopez again, and that's her second of this game. On 1 count. Lopez has started off all but 1 of her batters with a strike. Swinging and missing is Thiebert. Thiebert looked like it was more of a defensive swing, trying to get out of the way of it, but yet still the bat head came all the way around. And she gets the strike call. Up and high. One ball, 2 strikes, and 1 away. As Jessica Lopez in the circle taking a look at Thiebert. Thiebert, the lefty, inside half, sends it into the air, and Natera trying to get around Thiebert is able to make the catch. Either way, Thiebert was going to be called for interference because she was out of the batter's box and Natera had to work around her. And that is going to end up bringing up Francisco. So Lopez takes a look at the dugout. Everybody gets the sign that they're supposed to coordinate with as Lopez sees that one go low. Lopez with PV House, Gonzalez, Ramirez, and Dufresne in the infield. Outfield from left to right of Rooney, Muro, and Ferguson. Make it Hernandez and Ferguson. Natera behind home plate with a snapback toss to first, but she's not able to get the runner. To home. Up and out. 2-1. That might be the first count that we've seen her get behind a batter. Into the air, Francisco fouls it back, 2-2. Delivery home inside half, and Jessica Lopez once again with a called third strike. Big time pitch there by Lopez, and she sends the Hornets to the dugout as they get set for the bottom half of the sixth. It's 2-0 Hornets. You are watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net. So Fullerton is going to send up Miranda Rooney to start. And she'll be joined by Casey Dufresne.
Now batting for the Hornets, number 5, Miranda Rooney.
So here's Miranda Rooney. And she offers at the first pitch and fouls it off to the left. For Miranda Rooney, in this game, not having the same success as she did in game number 1, where she went 2 for 3. But nonetheless, she is still been on base once. 1 ball and 1 strike. Up over towards the left side. There's out number 1 as Varela is able to make the catch.
Number 34, Casey Dufresne.
Here's a strike to Casey Dufresne. Dufresne is the one who technically drove in the first run of the game for Fullerton. She sees that next one go up and high, eye level. To home. Casey up into the air. That's going to be caught. A beautiful diving grab there by Sickles. Sickles fully laying out and is able to make the catch out behind second base. A dazzling display of athletic ability, and she is able to make it out number 2. Down to third, PV House offers at that first pitch, and it will go foul. PV House in front of it and sends it foul again. Oh and 2. PV House down to third. Picked up, thrown to first. And it is there in time. E-step, able to toss it across, but Saddleback with 3 outs to go. They've got to get some runs going. They need at least 2 here in the top half of the 7th. You're watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net. So to the 7th we go, and again we want to thank everyone who has joined us so far this season. Whether it be baseball, softball, or also watching the show on SportsNetUSA.net. We thank you for joining us throughout the entire year as you get to keep up on the leader for community college sports, SportsNetUSA.net. If you go back and you watch the show, interviewing some of the coaches from around the entire country, and not just coaches, but also having some of the more interesting interviews that you will ever see. There'll be authors, coaches, players, etc. You can go and watch that. SportsNetUSA.net. As some changes take place in a few moments for the Hornets, and we'll get those to you as soon as we see who it is that comes in for Fullerton. It looks like Jessica Lopez is going to end up taking a seat, and in for her is Nikki Gonzalez. So the freshman pitcher gets an opportunity. So 2-0 is our score as Gonzalez goes through her warm-up tosses. One thing about Gonzalez is she's a very quick, hard thrower. She can overpower people with her fastball. It's a matter of placement. Can she get that command going? Her breaking pitches are very good as well. Two to nothing. The Hornets lead it. All gold-clad Hornets, gold uniform tops. You know, we were promised by certain people that the baseball team would get gold uniforms sometime this season. Well, you know what? We didn't end up seeing that, but we did see it here at softball. And when Mark and I say that the Hornets as a whole look better in gold, it is an understatement, as these Gold Hornet uniforms are fantastic to be able to watch on a Wednesday afternoon. As Nikki Gonzalez steps in, and she gets set to face her first batter in Varela. First pitch from Gonzalez is there for a called strike. No balls and one strike. Next delivery, that's up and high. One and one to home. Over to third. It goes in and out of the glove of Dufresne, and she will have no play over at first. So that will bring up a step. And with her coming up to the plate, she represents the game-tying run for Saddleback. Now for Saddleback, they so far this year have only hit a grand total of 2 home runs. They have 54 runs batted in. They have not scored on either end of this doubleheader and are looking to get their first runs of this Wednesday afternoon. One ball and one strike. Here's the 1-1. Over to Dufresne. Dufresne looking for second. She's got it on to first. It's there in time. A double play turned by the Fullerton College Hornets. That goes down as a 5-4-3 double play. Dufresne, Gonzalez, and Peavy House. And the Hornets are 1 out away from sweeping both halves of this doubleheader. One ball and no strikes. Swing and a miss by Benjamin. 1-1. That ball is chopped high in the air and fouled back. 1 ball and 2 strikes. One and 2. Next delivery from Gonzalez, and that's low and outside. Two balls and 2 strikes with 2 gone. Delivery home. Gonzalez looking for the outside corner again and didn't catch it. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 away. Up over towards the middle. A diving stop by Gonzalez from her knees is able to toss to first for the out. Back-to-back defensive plays for Fullerton College, and they sweep both halves of this doubleheader. 5-0 in game number 1, 2-0 here in game number 2, and the Hornets keep their position atop of the Orange Empire Conference. That's going to do it for us here on SportsNetUSA.net for both halves of this doubleheader. And again, if you have been watching softball all season long here on SportsNetUSA.net, a big thank you to Rashawn Haylock, Ed Ford specifically for allowing us to get on the air on SportsNetUSA.net, to Corey Nalen, Mark Pavlovich, and the guy who has been pressing buttons and making sure that we get on the air and technically our sound as well, Joseph Pavlenko over to my right. I am Ryan Osborne, thanking you again for joining us. 5-0 game number 1, 2-0 in game number 2, back-to-back shutouts for the Hornets. You've been watching Fullerton College softball here on SportsNetUSA.net.